Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome here if you are new. Today I have a bunch of like barbecue themed foods. One, because 4th of July, and two, because this is what I had in my fridge and my freezer, and it sounded really good to me. So that's what I did. So here, these are called Seattle dogs, which has cream cheese, caramelized onions, and peppers, and then I topped it with mustard. I also wrapped the hot dogs in bacon because I had some, so why wouldn't I? This is just a burger, and it's got like a bunch of toppings like sweet pickles, spinach, tomato, dill mustard, mayonnaise, and banana peppers. It's really good. I love it. Definitely recommend. And then these are sweet potato fries. And then over here I have some ranch if I'm feeling frisky, and some mayonnaise, which is what I'll probably use. I would have liked ketchup, but I didn't have any. So yeah, as you guys know, I don't really like ketchup, so I didn't realize that I was out of it. Anyway, let's see. There used to be this place back home, I think it's still there, but they would serve sweet potato fries with like a peanut butter and jelly sauce. It was actually really good. I almost made that, but then I was too lazy, so. Okay, let's take a bite of one of these. Let's see what's going on. The buns were busted, so that's how that's going. It really is a combination. So the issue is, these buns are gluten-free, so they fall apart super easy and make a huge mess. But at least it's not gonna hurt me, you know? That's what we're working with. This is seriously so messy. Okay. For today's story, actually, funnily enough, takes place in Washington, which is where these hot dogs come from. Well, the hot dog recipe. It's a story about the Oakville Blobs. I don't know if you guys have heard it, but it takes place in a town called Oakville, Washington, which is kind of down like along the longer edge, south of where Twilight took place. You guys know, it's like 50 miles away from the coast though. But the it's really rainy in Washington, and so when it rains, it's not like people are just like, whatever, that's a normal day. Like, it rains more than there is sun in Washington. And so back in the 1970s, I believe it was 1974, the town of Oakville woke up and it was raining like normal, and people were like, okay, whatever. They didn't think anything of it. But one woman had gone outside to I don't know if she was like going to run errands or something, but she had walked outside because she thought that it kind of looked like hail instead of rain, and because she could see it like sitting on top of the grass and on top of her car and stuff. So she went outside and she was kind of looking at it and she was like, huh, this isn't hail. This is just making a mess. The struggle of being gluten-free, let me tell you. That really is so good. This woman's name, by the way, is Dottie Hearn. And she goes to inspect what she thought was hail to see what it really was. And when she touched it, it was like a gooey gelatin-like substance. And it was all over. Now, around the time that this was happening, there was a police officer named David Lacey who was I don't know if he was on call or if he was actually like working, but he had one of his friends with him. And they were driving around and they noticed that it was raining. So of course he turns on his windshield wipers and the rain started to smear all over the windshield. I don't love it with ranch. It's not bad. So anyway, David Lacey gets out of the car and he puts on some gloves because he didn't know what the substance was. He thought maybe like something had sprayed on his car. And he like started feeling it and realized that it was like a gelatinous material. And he was just like, huh, okay, weird. So let's go back to Dottie, where she is at home. She started not to feel well. And she thought that maybe it was due to like the weather change or whatever, maybe some allergies. And so she like went to sit down and then like couldn't get back up. She was very, very sick. Luckily, her daughter had visited that day and she came in, found her mom sick and rushed her to the ER. This is the burger. Let's see. These buns are usually a little bit more stable, but we'll see if they actually hold up. So before Dottie fell ill, she actually collected some samples of this gelatin stuff because she was like, I don't know what this is. And she thought maybe that was what was making her sick, or her daughter did. So when they got to the ER, they explained what happened. And the ER was like, huh, that's a little bit weird. Like, you shouldn't be feeling sick from rain. Across town, David Lacey and his friend were also feeling sick. And it turns out, everyone who had come in contact with the rain, all throughout this, like, I think it was like a 20-mile radius maybe, they were all feeling sick too. And a couple days later, all of the animals started to die, all the ones who were outside when this rain hit. So the samples were sent, I believe, first to one of the colleges in Washington, like one of their laboratories, to get tested. And they originally said that they had found traces of human white blood cells in the actual gelatin. Like, it was made up of human white blood cells. And that was what was making people sick. But then you're like, how is it raining human blood cells? You know, like, what? Once this data came out, it actually gained a little bit more profile, a little bit higher profile, and they sent it off to a laboratory that was like, I don't know if it was like a state laboratory or if it was actually run by like the country as a whole, but they had sent it off to them, and they discovered that it was made up of 2 types of living organisms, but they couldn't like pinpoint what they were. Like, they didn't know what they were, but there was 2 living organisms inside of it, in this gel. And it was kind of like swept off, and people thought, huh, weird. We don't really know. And so Dottie, she had some more samples and sent it off to a private like company, and they came back and they said the same thing. They were like, we really don't know what this is, but we know that it's living. There are 2 living organisms inside of this gel, and that's what was making the people sick and the animals die. So I don't know if you guys know, but in Washington there are a few military bases kind of within a pretty close like perimeter of each other, like all within a couple hours. There's like Air Force Base, Navy base, a couple Navy bases. And they do a lot of like testing off in the ranges in the ocean. And remember, Oakville is only about 50 miles from the ocean. So investigators were like, well, maybe it was due to one of the exercises that the Air Force was doing, and when they were dropping bombs into the ocean, they blew up a bunch of jellyfish, and the jellyfish exploded, went through the air, and started raining down on the town. But then you're thinking, if they were jellyfish and they were known species of jellyfish, wouldn't the lab have like picked that up and they would have known, oh, hey, this is this living organism, right? Like, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Well, another theory is something called star jelly, which is like an unknown substance that's like fallen in a couple of different places, and they don't know what it is. Like, they don't know if it comes from outer space or like what kind of debris is falling, but that's another theory that people had, that it was space jelly. Now, there was another theory that most of the townspeople believe, and I myself think is the most plausible explanation. Like I said, they had a couple military bases up there, like quite a few. And the military, especially back, well, I'm not saying that they don't do it now, but like in the 70s, it was like, hey, let's be a little bit more experimental with different types of weapons and see, you know, like how we can gain the advantage, you know, with our military. So many people believe that the military was testing a biological weapon on the citizens, and they wanted to see what would happen. So of course, the military never came out and said that they were testing a biological agent on its citizens. Like, obviously they would never say that, even if it was true. When Dottie had gone to look for the records on any of the testing that was done on this gelatin rain, or these blobs, the state of Washington didn't have any records that it had ever been tested. Because if there was record of it, maybe they could go back through and analyze the results now that we have like more technology, better technology. Or maybe there was something like left over in the vials that was sent in, you know, maybe they didn't use it all. This is ridiculous. Tastes delicious, but is it worth it, you know? So, there is no record of, well, I'm not going to say no record. The only information that I found was that the state of Washington, it was either at like the actual state level, or maybe it was at the first place that they tested it, the college. There are no records of it having ever entered the laboratory or it having been tested. So that's kind of like questionable. I'm not sure about the private laboratory that Dottie sent it to, if they have record of it, or, you know, still nobody ever officially said what the substance was. And all we know is that it was living, or it had living organisms inside of it. So that's kind of like questionable. But I mean, what do you guys think? You know, do you think that it was a government cover-up? Do you think that maybe it's something that the space jelly or the star jelly that fell from the sky and nobody really knows what it's made up of? But I don't know. Who knows? We'll never know, because there's nothing left from the Oakville Blobs, nothing that can be tested, and there's no record of it other than witness accounts. So, and also like news stories and stuff, but that's still like witness accounts. Yeah, so thank you guys for watching. I definitely recommend you try the Seattle dog. It is one of my favorite forms of hot dog, just not with a gluten-free bun, because it is very messy. It's not the vibe. But please check out my other videos if you guys liked this one. I have a list of mukbangs on my channel, so if you guys want to go watch those, you can. But I will see you guys next time. Okay, bye.